Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska, zone 6A, formerly 5B. It is warmer out here than I expected it to be this early in the morning, and I've got some new things to show you in the garden. Welcome to June. Let's start in the beds this week because, let's see, there are quite a few tomatoes starting to pop up. These are probably the easiest ones to see. This is the Midnight Roma, but all of the plants have maybe one or two tomatoes starting to form. Kind of like that. Some of the plants are doing a lot better than others. So as you can see, some of the leaves are So yeah, and it's only certain plants, certain varieties of plants, like both of these Midnight Romas look that way, but some of the other paste varieties next to it aren't quite as bad. They need watered, that's for sure, but that's something I will do later after this. I have been trellising and pruning the tomatoes. Most of the indeterminates are about, I don't know, 2 feet tall at this point, which is super exciting. So this is all of these tomatoes. There's what, 6, 10, 14 tomato plants right here. And then the onions are really bulbing up, which is exciting to see. I want you to please ignore my weeds. I need to go through and weed whack over here, but the carrots are looking good. I do have the eggplants growing well, and the beans are filling in after whatever was eating them decided to move on. I was gonna see, here you can see it. Both of those, if it will focus, both of those little baby plants right there, those are ground cherries. Because of where I piled the dirt while we were getting these beds built, the seeds from last year's ground cherries are now spread all throughout the garden. So I might be finding them several places, but it's just in this bed. We've got those two. We've got 2 more here. Let's see if I can even get you to. And then we got that guy right there. Now I'm not gonna keep them all in this bed, but at some point I will pull out a couple of them and plant them in ground. But here we've just got, of course, the dwarf tomatoes are doing well, and more beans. The peppers over here may be getting choked out a little bit by the potatoes, but the potatoes are starting to flower. I'm gonna let them, but I'll probably pull off any fruit that ends up forming up top because I don't necessarily need that. But the pollinators really like the potato flowers. So I'm leaving those. And speaking of flowers, I forgot to show you this. We're gonna have our first calendula blossom very soon, which is exciting to see. Like I said, ignore my weeds. We are probably going to be pulling out all the sod, around the beds fairly soon. So hopefully you will only see that a couple more times and we'll be good. But we've got these tomato plants that are doing very well. Like I said, we've got tomatoes forming everywhere, and it looks like I missed a shoot that'll have to come in, clip off. This is probably one of my taller tomatoes. Getting about 2.5 feet there. These tomatoes are looking really good. The bee balm and the sage are doing okay. I do need to come back and fill this with even more dirt. It sank again. My thyme, however, on both sides isn't looking the greatest. And the stevia here, I'm losing some of the bottom leaves. So I don't know if it's too dry or too wet. But the bee balm likes it, whatever it is. I guess I could show you, since we're over here. This bed looks exactly like the one I just left. So these tomato plants are doing good, except for I don't think there are any actual tomatoes in this bed, whereas most of the other ones have started forming fruit. I still really love the variegation. And once again, onions are bulbing. And this one over here has about 8 plants in it, which is why I keep it pruned really well. And I'm keeping my eye on this tomato right here. Still a little firm, but I have a feeling that'll be my first ripe tomato. And then we've got the water feature over there that is charging, so isn't quite going yet. And here, these jelly melons are looking well, especially since their siblings over here have disappeared. I'm thinking about maybe letting these jelly melons take over the whole trellis, and then over here, maybe planting some zucchini. I'm having some fun trying to get my zucchinis going right now. I will take you to the other beds. I don't think I've shown this bed from the back before, mainly because it's a mess and I don't want to sink into it. But these potatoes look like they're going to start flowering soon too. Oh, and this is probably why I haven't shown you from this direction. But guess what? You get it today. You can see a lot of fruit forming on these sweet peppers. Usually it's my banana pepper that I get peppers off first, but something about the weather this year has all of the other peppers really super excited. Look at that purple pepper. So I'm hoping this is the year where I have an overabundance of sweet peppers. Look at the variegation on those. And then finally, I'm still dealing with the cat digging in this bed. Looks like that garbanzo bean plant is attempting to come back, but the rest of them, let me get out of my own shadow. The rest of them are looking nice and bushy, so that's fun. I've never grown this many at once, and they look like little ferns. I like it. Okay, so I'm gonna flip around so I don't have to keep fighting my own shadow. These are the spicy peppers. They still have the chilies, which are the sweet cayenne, going over there. I'm waiting for those to get red. And then do have some jalapenos forming, and excuse me, let's get back there. Poblano back there. But I usually wait for my peppers to turn. I don't ever pick them green because I feel like they taste sweeter when I let them ripen. So that's usually when I start picking peppers. And then there's my one surviving squash plant, which is now alive. I had one come back from the dead in ground that I'll show you later. But this little guy right here is a trooper, and that's the Ocote green. Never had this one before, so I'm excited to try it. I will show you this corner simply because it makes me laugh. This is all milkweed. I have got some butterfly weed in there too that's flowering. And I've attempted to plant some chamomile. Got a couple plants going, but we'll see if they can win against the grass that is nearly impossible to keep tamed over here, which is why I have all of this milkweed. And it looks like that's gonna start flowering soon. Now back to the fire pit. Here we have the first pot cluster. Yeah, this plant isn't gonna make it. It's staying too wet, it's not draining. So I think this is my reminder. All of the pots like this are doing the same thing. And I need to, at the end of the season, if there are things that manage to survive them, I need to put new holes in these pots and see if I can get some drainage to happen. Because the onions are in the same style pot and they seem to be doing okay. I mean, there's some yellowing going on, but that other tomato over there, not doing so good. But the tomatoes in the bigger pots are looking really healthy, even if I do have to go in and see if I can hold you and get this weed at the same time. No. I'll get the rest of that later. On the other side, looks like, oops, stepping on myself. Looks like I've got some garlic scapes that I need to cut off. And then I have been eating through the onions in that back pot, if it'll focus. And there's only like 5 onions in there, so I've eaten 2. I'm letting this one go to seed. Just because, oh, it's not gonna focus. There we go, just because I think it would be cool to see an onion blossom. So I'm letting that one go. This, of course, test plot. Thinking about cutting back the cover crop maybe late next week and getting the tarp down. And then this plot will be a handful of corn stalks, okra, maybe some beans. It's kind of where I'm going with it right now, but we'll see. I need to get the okra started now so that it has some size when I put it into the ground. Because I have a feeling if I just let it grow from the ground, it'll get eaten. So we're gonna try and do those in pots first. And speaking of pots, we've got this cluster, which is doing really well. With a couple of tomato plants, bunching onions. There's dill in the back there. And then the cilantro, which I did do a harvest on, but now it is starting to bolt, and I think I'll just let it And then on the other side, pretty much the same thing. Me again, hello. This tomato plant is probably my favorite dwarf right now, just because of how amazing it looks. Look at those leaves. This is the Metallica dwarf tomato. So I'm excited to see what the fruits are like on this one, and if it is a good fruit, this might become a staple in my garden because this plant is thriving. But yes, some bolting cilantro, some munching onions. This cilantro isn't bolting yet, so I might get another harvest off of it. But I think it's because it gets some morning sun, but then it hides for the rest of the day. So that's probably why this one isn't bolting yet. Of course, some basil, some bunching onions. But over here, look at that. Look at that flower. This is the first squash blossom. Still don't know what variety this is. We're still playing that game. This was growing in the middle of where my old beds used to be. And I transplanted them, didn't think they were gonna make it, and look, I think they're gonna make it. So it'll be fun to see if this is maybe a butternut or a pink banana or a zucchini. I don't know. I'm just letting it go. I thought it was a trellising variety, hence why the A-frame is there. But we'll see. I've got, of course, my peach tree with my very productive strawberry patch. Chives could probably be cut back so they can do another flush. We've got the plant nursery where I need to do something with these tomato plants because they won't stay upright anymore. I'm fighting them. But this is my second round of zucchinis. As you can see, only one of the pots is thriving right now, and buried under the peppers and the tomatoes are some pumpkins that are doing well. But what surprised me is on this other side, we have a little surprise. Somehow, this one little pumpkin has managed not to get eaten. So I might have a lot of pumpkins this year, which I'm not mad about. That means we just have under the deck. So I'm gonna take you around there. So here we've got some basil and some stevia. Some of the basil is starting to go to flower. I'm letting it because I have tons of basil all over. The sweet potatoes are the surprise of the season. Didn't think that was even gonna happen. And the loofah might be making a comeback because she's looking pretty good at top. I might take some compost and bury that scraggly part a little better. But I'm still hoping. I've got my fingers crossed. The garlic. The garlic is kind of giving out at this point. I have given it a little extra food and I've been keeping it watered, but I think it's decided that it's done. It's just gotten too hot too fast. I think it's a little confused. I should technically have about 3 or so weeks left on the garlic before I start pulling, but it might get pulled a little early. But the peas are doing well. The dogs have gotten to the point where they won't go inside with me unless they have seen me pull some of these pods as a treat for them. So they've got me trained. We've got the Fred's tomatoes back there doing really well. Someday I'll actually give you a close-up. I guess I could attempt it. Hold on. Just too many pine berries. I've lost my stepping stones. Okay, that was more of an adventure than I planned for this morning. But these are looking really good too. And we're getting lots of blossoms. So I've got lots of hope for them. And since I'm back here, we're gonna view this monstrosity from over here. I started pulling all of the lettuce because, first of all, it's starting to bolt, obviously. But the ants were starting to farm aphids all over this lettuce, which there's a lot of things that I can take in the garden. I don't mind wasps, I don't mind bees, I don't mind worms, I don't mind any of the other creepy crawlies, but ants are one thing that I cannot do. So this patch was getting to a point where I didn't even want to go anywhere near it because it was so bad. But I pulled most of the lettuce while wearing a lot of layers so that maybe the spinach could start to thrive and the radishes could fill in a little better. I'm gonna say hi to the doggo. Say hi to Albus. Hi, Albus. And then I saturated this area with DE because I was just done. You can see some of the DE still on the pine berries. And this lettuce looks a little better than it did when I started pulling stuff out, but at this point it's bitter and it's not really usable. So I should just pull the rest of it out. Thinking of turning the rest of this bed into New Zealand spinach, maybe some strawberry spinach. Both of those are a little bit more heat tolerant, so I think they would do well over here. I might wait until July or so to do that, or I might just break down and do that tomorrow. Chaos gardening at its finest. But otherwise, I'm not gonna go back over there. You've seen a lot of this before. We've got the peach tree, and then some more chives and some more strawberries, and then peeking out from over there are my blueberry bushes. Nothing else is really growing over there at this point. So that is the garden in June. Like I said, I will be adding some okra to my little nursery area probably today because I finally got some compost soil in and I can put some nursery pots together. Otherwise, the harvest is slowly starting to come in, and I will continue to do these once a week just because I love to see how the garden has changed over the year. So if you want to see my garden change throughout the season, subscribe down below, hit the bell, do all the things to get all of the notifications. I, of course, will be getting mulch around all these beds fairly soon. I say that with a tiny grain of salt. I do have an Instagram and Threads account where I usually put up what I am harvesting and what is flowering and all of those random garden finds throughout the season. So if you want to see some of that before I post a garden tour over here, you can do that as well. Otherwise, I've got a few things that I need to water and then I will get this video up. I do hope I will see you guys again in another video, and I heart you beautiful faces. Bye.